This is a vehicle I've been seeking for a very long time. A vehicle that I've hinted at on the channel since I started it last year. A channel that, even with many hiatuses, has amassed 2,000 subscribers in a year and a half, and given me the opportunity to drive many different cars. Cars that led me to deciding on one of these. Thank you for 2,000 subscribers and for all of the support on the channel. I have finally found and purchased a 2017 BMW 340i. So I finally did it. I bought myself this 2017 340i xDrive finished in the incredible Astoral blue paintwork. I think this is one of the best looking blues BMW's ever done. All the way back in 2013, I became fascinated with the F30 Generation 3 series. It looks sharp while also resembling early 2000s BMWs like the E46. A few years later, my family finally bought one, a 320i in Alpine White. This brought back my obsession from years earlier, leading me to go back to the configurator to build one of the last years of the F30. I built what I thought would be the ultimate F30. Yes, I built several M3s as well, but I wanted to be realistic since I knew I'd need xDrive for the snow. I built an Astoral blue over Oyster 340i with all the tech gadgets 16-year-old me thought I needed. Obviously, I couldn't afford its $63,000 price tag, so I made it a goal of mine whatever version it would evolve to. Now, since it's a used vehicle, it's not 100% perfect. It came with a couple little paint chips I'll show you real quickly. There's a couple here on the door handle. There's one little bit down here on the side skirt. If I work my way around the back side here, there's a couple little scratches there, but there's a very small hairline scratch, assuming that you can't see it in the shade, easily fixable. And then the wheels, they have this Plastidip stuff on from the dealership that I bought it from, and you can see that I tried to get it off. I power washed it a little bit and it started to come off a little bit, but most of it, it's still kind of caked on there. So I did some Goo Gone. We're going to try maybe WD-40 or something. And you can even see here, it's still in the wheel barrel there. There's a little bit of extra Plastidip. So ultimately I'll have to take the whole wheel off and do the same thing. You can see that he unfortunately got some of the brake caliper. This is supposed to be silver, but since it's not the fancy, the M brakes, the big brakes, that's not really a big deal. But that's why I'm eventually going to get some different wheels. Over the years, I started to like the G20 M340i and the larger G30 540i and highly considered those too. However, I would only want 1 year of the M340i, which demands a significant premium, and 540i's with the stuff I wanted are tricky to find, even though they can be found for the same or less than a 340i. These vehicles hold their value well for one particular reason: the B58 engine. It's a 3-liter straight six, making 320 horsepower to as high as around 382 stock. Since 2020 or so, they've been regarded as both reliable and easily tunable, save for the plastic coolant components. Knowing that they're more reliable made this an even better deal for me. I've also got the much nicer Harman Kardon sound system. In the F30s, this was the top of the line one you could get. You couldn't get any Bowers & Wilkins, I know, but this sounds really, really good. And since I replaced the distorted passenger side speaker, it sounds even better now. This is also my first car with a sunroof. I love having the sunroof. I haven't used it a lot yet, but I know it's not full panoramic, but for a sedan, this is more than you need in my opinion. I started researching for this vehicle just under a year ago, which was accelerated by being given the chance to drive a 440i Grand Coupe. This was my first chance to get behind the wheel of an F3X chassis with the B58. I had heard about the numb steering feel, but I still enjoyed its driving experience, and the search was on. Obviously, I still considered the other two options, but the Astoral blue was still my favorite paint color. Now, when I was shopping for this, I didn't realize how pearlescent the Astoral blue was until I saw another car on the freeway that was almost identical to this one. You can see in the sunlight, it absolutely glistens. It's not even like an obnoxious blue either. I think both in the shade and in the sun, it looks relatively conservative while also being like, hey, look at me, I'm a blue car, but I'm just doing it a little more classier. I think the Astoral blue debuted on the E36 M3. This is the Astoral blue 2, which is a little bit different, I guess. A lot of people have talked about the first Astoral blue being a little bit better, but I'm not sure how much better you can get than this because I think it looks absolutely incredible on the F30. This is a car I have been trying to find for nearly 6 months. This particular specification, Astoral blue and Oyster, is incredibly hard to find, let alone with the options I wanted on the vehicle. This is the first car I've ever owned with keyless entry. Sorry, force of habit, comfort access. So you can tell if your BMW has comfort access is if it's got these little ridges here. Put my hand behind here, it'll unlock automatically. And then I can open the door, get inside, beautiful interior, yada, yada, yada. And then I put my finger there and you can see it'll lock back up like that. So love having that feature. So this is what BMW calls the LCI, or Life Cycle Impulse, which is fancy speak for a facelift. And basically what they've done here on the F30 facelift is they gave it these fancy taillights. They have the full LED elements, including the running lights, brake lights, and turn signals, save for the reverse lights, which are still incandescent, and these full LED daytime running lights, low beams, high beams, and turn signals, and they're made by Hella, which is hella cool. On September 12th, 2024, I was searching AutoTrader, as any car guy does, and found a listing that showed a 2017 example with only 35,000 miles. Up until this point, there were only about 3 for sale in the whole country around the 50,000 mile mark. The main thing that jumped out to me was that it had the oyster interior. This was the ideal spec, as I liked the look of the interior, and the seats wouldn't be as hot in the summer as a black interior. I checked the options list on this listing and found every single feature that was a must-have. Side and top view cameras, active blind spot detection, heated steering wheel, and since it was a 2017, Apple CarPlay. So the iDrive in the LCI is a little complicated. Basically, every single model year of the LCI, the 16, the 17, and the 18 in the US, all had some kind of changes to the iDrive system. So if you have a 2016, which this one isn't, you got the iDrive 4 system. The 2016s, they didn't have Apple CarPlay. They were the iDrive 4, and the head unit itself used a 3G connection, which has unfortunately been disabled by BMW. And of course, if you want Apple CarPlay, you either have to add in a newer head unit or get an aftermarket box, both of which are very expensive. Now, all the vehicles up until this one that I was looking at on the market were all 2016s, and it drove me nuts because I didn't want that older iDrive system. Now for 2017s, they got newer hardware. They got 4G connectivity for the connected drive, all of which you can retrofit, by the way. Lots of people have done that. It's incredibly popular, but it costs around $1,500, $2,000. That's something I wasn't willing to spend right out the gates when I was already going to be spending so much money on it. So I was like, okay, let's go for this one instead. So this 17 has the iDrive 5 system. Now the iDrive 5 system has the wireless Apple CarPlay. It's got a slightly revised system. If I go ahead and put it in accessory mode here, I'll show you guys real quick. And it's got the tiles, not the live tiles, which I'll talk about in a second, but you can see this is the newer style iDrive. You go through all the settings, it's got the home screen, that kind of stuff. Pretty straightforward. Now in 2018, this screen actually became a touchscreen later in the production run. Not all 2018s had touchscreens, by the way, which is incredibly confusing. And then they kept the hardware, but upgraded it to iDrive 6. Now, as far as I'm aware of, iDrive 6 on the F30s is literally just a skin of iDrive 5 with touchscreen capability. It looks a little bit different. I'll go ahead and show you a shot of it right here. It's a little bit nicer, and I'm planning on adding that at some point. So that is basically the lineage of iDrive systems on the LCI F30s. I absolutely love these shortcut buttons. You can even hover over them, and it tells you what each thing is. You can see I got sport displays, Apple CarPlay. I've got one to turn off the screen because that's not on by default. And you've got one just to quickly adjust your audio settings. It's so well done. I think every car should have a set of shortcut buttons like this. And the sport displays, I mean, come on, who wouldn't want that? At this point, there wasn't a price listed for it just yet. I decided if I can get it for under 40 grand, due to the low miles and great equipment, I'll go ahead and buy it. I checked the dealer site and saw $35,000. This pushed it much higher than typical 340i's, but it was what I wanted, and I didn't have to go adding all of the features I wanted. I was in. This is also my first car with a heads-up display. Now, while I was researching for this car, I literally completely forgot that the F30s had a heads-up display, but you can see there it shows the speed limit and the current speed you're going, and honestly, this is such a major safety thing for me because, first of all, I like having my digital speedo in addition to the analog speedo, and second of all, I don't have to take my eyes that far off the road to look at the heads-up display. And I saw that it had the technology package. That even further sealed the deal for me. I was like, no way, this has a heads-up display, that's crazy, but still such a cool thing. Another major thing on the F30 for me was that you could turn off the automatic engine start-stop and it'll remember the setting when you turn off and on the car. A lot of people don't like that, me included, and that is something I actually got rid of after 2020 on both the 340s and the 540s, which led to my decision to get something 2020 or earlier. going into wintertime, a feature that I genuinely appreciate is the heated steering wheel. That was also another major feature I was looking for on my F30. And driving around when it's like 20 degrees outside, which it's getting to pretty often now. I do a lot of nighttime driving and a lot of morning driving. Turning that on first thing in the morning, I do wish it was here and not here, but turning it on first thing in the morning, it feels so good. And then having my heated seat going, my automatic climate control, so I don't have to constantly be adjusting the dial to every micro precise adjustment. It basically does everything for me. And I've never had a car with automatic climate control before, and I've never understood just how good having something like that is. I'm so lucky to have automatic climate control. However, where's my sync button? There's no sync button. Now, there are two buttons down here that aren't on most F30s, and this was something I was looking for when I was shopping for this car. So this little thing right here, you push this camera button, it shows you your side cameras, and this line shows you basically where the front of your car is, as you can see right there. That helps you to line up with an end of a parking spot. Now, the cameras are not the best quality. I've definitely seen much, much better, especially on the newer G20s and G30s. If I press the park button right here, I'll show you over here. This kind of gives you like a semi 360. It's a 270-degree camera system because there is no front camera. But the parking sensors, honestly, on the BMWs, they've always done such a good job. And if I hit the little back button here and hit the reverse camera, you can see there, I can see my reverse camera with moving trajectory lines. I find that incredibly helpful whenever I'm backing up. And I think that this honestly does more than enough for me. Personally, I've always been used to parking with just the mirror over there, which, by the way, if you put the car into reverse, it will auto tilt, which is just amazing. It's so helpful. You almost don't even need the camera at that point if you're parking in a normal spot. But using this to center in a parking space, so useful. So my F30 came with a few more goodies, including the blind spot monitor, pedestrian warning, pre-collision warning, and lane centering assist. So a bunch of little over-the-top things, but I think it was worth it because I like having the blind spot indicator to let me know when someone is in my lane. It's especially useful if I'm driving on like a 3-lane or more interstate. Now, since I was in school and the vehicle was in the opposite corner of the country, I decided to have the car shipped. There was essentially a 90-day buyback guarantee, so I knew I wouldn't be taking a super high risk in buying this sight unseen. Now, this didn't go 100% perfectly, as there was a non-OEM headlight and a rear defroster that I have to get replaced, but this is the car I wanted, and it showed up to my house exactly 1 month later. Now, I love the LCI style headlights, but this one is not exactly the same as the other one I just showed you guys because this is actually a non-genuine unit.
Now, just as a quick explanation, when I first bought the vehicle, there was some condensation in the passenger side headlight. The primary solution suggested by BMW owners is to replace it rather than try and fix it since the seals could be bad. So the dealer I bought it from agreed to get a brand new $2,000 BMW OEM headlight. In fact, they decided to put a $200 fake OE replacement headlight in there instead. And after some research, I discovered that not only is the headlight unit itself $700, it's approximately $300 to get headlight LED modules. When I got the pre-delivery video, I had to point it out to them to get them to tell me why it wasn't OEM. The dealer cited a backordered part as a reason to put the knockoff unit into the car, but in my opinion, they definitely should have compensated me for the price difference and lack of disclosure. Leaving the condensated unit would have allowed me to fix it, or at least preserve the original modules, none of which are to be found. After lots of negotiating, I only got them to partially compensate me for the damaged rear defroster and subsequent back glass replacement, so I'm now out about $1,000, but it's a good learning experience both with dealing with a used car dealer and with installing a complex part, and I still got the car I wanted at the end of the day. I plan on doing a full-on installation video when I get the parts, so stay tuned.
I've been driving it for about a month now, and I'm just as impressed as when I got it. Yes, the steering isn't perfect, but I love the acceleration feel, the handling, and comfort. This is easily the most agile vehicle I've ever driven. I can't wait to take you guys along with my build journey on this F30. This is just the beginning. I'm so excited to show you guys what I'm going to be doing to this car. I have several modifications planned for the 340i. In fact, I already got started. This vehicle came with what I assume are aftermarket black kidney grills. I say that because the VIN shows no such option, so I put these OEM chrome grills on that I got from eBay for only $25. You can see what I'm talking about here, how the chrome pops in the Astoral Blue. The way the pearlescent works with the chrome, I think that kind of works really well. And then if I show my camera here with the silver wheels, I think that that matches much better than having the black. Now, if this was like an Alpine white car, for example, Maybe I would do black grills and black wheels, but I think that on the blue, this just looks so much better. I definitely want to do wheels eventually too. It came with 18-inch 400M wheels that were unfortunately plasti-dipped, so I'm still trying to get that off, but the wheels look great from factory. However, I want to get some 19-inch wheels to fill the wheel wells a little more, and get some proper Michelin rubber to replace the supposedly slippery Pirellis. I have lots of other ideas for little additions here and there, but I'll be making in-depth videos on all of these things. In fact, I'll upload lots of short-form content on my Instagram page documenting pretty much everything and more. Stay tuned, because I am extremely excited about the future of this 340i. Thank you for 2,000 subscribers, and thank you for watching.